Well, we know that federal law overrides state law. I would note that earlier when we put out our guidance on the president's announcement about mandates several weeks ago, it made clear that, again, as I said earlier, requirements are promulgated pursuant to federal law and supersede any contrary state or local law or ordinance.
No, 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 no. This is some of the most infuriating crap there is. I'll tell you what. I got something right here with me, right? It's a copy of the U.S. Constitution. A little pocket copy. I encourage everyone to have one, right? They hand them out at so many different events. Go and get yourself a copy. Because clearly we need a refresher. So, if we open up this copy of the Constitution and head over to the amendments, what do you know? We got the 10th Amendment and the Bill of Rights, right? The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. In other words, if the law that you passed is not directly listed as a responsibility of the federal government by the Constitution, then your law has no authority over state law at all. The state has authority over the federal government when it comes to any matters not expressly given to the federal government in this document. We have a constitution for a reason, and these people continue. No, they swear an oath to the Constitution. They always have to swear the oath to the Constitution. Even Biden, when he was elected, he swore an oath to defend the Constitution in the United States. What happens when they go against their oath? Really, what happens? It's not just Biden. Let's be honest. It's basically almost every single president that has been around in the past possibly 100 years almost. It is absolutely insane how many presidents have ignored the words of this document. I wouldn't be surprised if many of these presidents have never even sat down and fully read the Constitution. I make it a clear point once a month to always read the Constitution at least one time through. All the way through, just one time. It's not very long. Again, little pocket copy here. It's very easy to get through. It's not like reading a Bible or anything like that. This is a very quick document to read. Very easy to get through. You go through all the articles, and you get to the amendments, and it's not like we have a ton of them, right? This is not a very big document. Yet I would not be surprised if over half of our elected representatives have actually never read this document. I can easily say in school we never read the Constitution all the way through. It's amazing. You think a public school system would actually read the most important document for our entire society. And this is the most important document for the United States of America. We don't read it in school. I guarantee you these politicians don't read it at all. So what happens when they don't uphold their oaths to the Constitution? No one will ever face justice. No one in the federal government will ever face justice. This is why it's so important for us to start getting involved at the local level, because at the end of the day, it's the local states and the localities in that state that truly have the power, and that is constitutionally true. The Constitution does not give the federal government that much power. It really doesn't, because we're supposed to be centralized around the states. It was constantly said, you should vote on your feet. If you don't like the laws in your state, go find a state that agrees with you. The states were supposed to be laboratories where we could experiment with different forms of governance and actually realize, okay, what works, what doesn't, so that if something went disastrous, well, it only affected that one state and people could just leave it and go to a different state. And if things worked out great, we knew what worked and we could then move that and integrate it into other states. It was never supposed to be this federal just tyranny happening at the moment. The reality is almost everything the federal government does today violates this document in some form or another. Look at something simple like OSHA or the EPA. They pass regulations that were never approved of by the legislator, right? They put regulations in place, and if you don't abide by them, you'll get fined. And if you don't pay those fines, well, you'll go to jail or have your business taken from you. They claim that's not a law, because if it was a law, it would have to be passed by Congress and the Senate before it could ever be put in place. Every single regulation we have on the book, every single one, from OSHA to the EPA to anything, should all have to be voted on by the legislators of our country. It's as simple as that. Because these are not just regulations, these are laws. It's a clear violation of how our system's supposed to work. However, even more so, I'd say the fact that we even have OSHA and the EPA and federal education, it is absolutely unconstitutional as is. Nowhere in this document does it give the federal government authority to interfere with public education of the states. Nowhere in this document is anywhere listed that we're supposed to provide education for everyone in this country. Now that doesn't mean states can't do it, right? States can decide these things. There's no reason to have OSHA at all. If the states want to have a system where, guess what, you don't have any real regulations when it comes to this sort of stuff, that's up to the state. That's up to the people who live there. All right, I, for one, am confident that the people who live there will make the right decisions. I believe in the individual. I believe in the people. I don't trust the federal government. I believe in the individual. Because that is what this country is truly about. And states that want OSHA laws will have OSHA laws. States that don't want it, it's up to them. It's up to them to decide these things. And the reality is that we have seen this time and time again. Take immigration, right? Immigration, something that actually is listed in the Constitution for the government to, of course, or the federal government to have power over. Even in that case, something where the federal government actually truly does have power over the state governments, California has, and not just California, I think actually North Carolina even, has sanctuary cities. Clear violation of federal law. Clear violation of federal law. And what happens? Absolutely nothing. The reality is the emperor has no clothes. The federal government has no power. Has no power whatsoever except for the power that we allow them to have. I asked earlier, who holds them accountable? Who holds these people accountable for when they violate the Constitution? The reality is it's us. It is us who hold them accountable through our election process. We need to make sure not only are we electing people to the federal government who actually will protect and serve this document, but also we need to make sure we're focused on our local electors. Because guess what? It's the governor standing up to the federal government. It's the mayors standing up to the federal government that will really enact a lot of change. You see this right now with DeSantis. You see it with Greg Abbott. They're actually standing up for their states and for state rights, saying the federal government, you have no power here. You have no authority in this matter. Nowhere in the United States Constitution does it give you any power to mandate medical treatment upon the people. Nowhere in the Constitution. So places like Florida, places like Texas have called them out on their bluff, and we'll see what happens. And here's the deal. Let's say it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rules in favor of the federal government. What happens if the states still say no? Really? What's the federal government going to do? Nuke Texas? I doubt that. That makes no sense. Why would you nuke the people you want to control? Send in the military? Well, Texas has a National Guard, and also how many members of the military would actually be willing to invade Texas? Obviously, if anything, we've learned in COVID that police officers are willing to do basically whatever it is the government tells them to do. But I still like to think that if the military was called into Texas to take control, many of them, let's face it, Texas people would fight back, and many of the people in the military, I don't think are going to be willing to go that far. So what's the federal government going to do? The reality is they're going to do almost nothing. They will do almost nothing if the states actually just stood up and said no. And the states can say no to more things than just this terrible mandate. The states need to start saying no to a whole heap of things. Obviously, Texas, I believe, is working on basically saying that, hey, no, we're going to have suppressors. We're going to allow suppressors to be built and put on our rifles because only an idiot would be against suppressors. Only a complete idiot would be against a gun having a suppressor. Because it's not like John Wick. It's not like that awesome scene in, I think it was John Wick 2, where they're in the subway firing at each other with silenced pistols and no one can hear them at all and the crowd's just walking by. And it's a really cool scene if you haven't seen it. But obviously nowhere near realistic. A suppressor would still, it'd still, cause your ears to ring a little bit, especially if shot indoors, right? Makes no sense to make them illegal. And Texas government said, screw you, we're still going to allow it. What had the federal government done? Not really much. They haven't cared. Why? Because they know they have no power. There's no reason the ATF should even exist in the first place. This should be a state-by-state issue, simple as that. If you want to live in a state that doesn't allow you to have a suppressor, well, you can go live in that state. If I want to live in a state that allows me to have a suppressor on my firearm, I'm going to go live in that state. We vote on our feet. Even things as simple as Social Security. Obviously one of the most disastrous things we've ever implemented, right? One of the biggest Ponzi schemes ever devised by man. If you want to have Social Security, vote for it in your state. Have it be a state thing. If it works so well, you don't need federal subsidies. It should work just fine. But the reality is of course, if they did that, many states would opt out. And they don't want that, because how would they maintain that sort of power over the populace? And of course over the states. We hold them accountable to the Constitution. We have to elect the people who will oppose these federal mandates. We have to elect the people who will tell the federal government to shove off. Holding these people to their responsibility doesn't just involve the federal government, it involves the local government as well, and we need to get involved. It's funny, on my copy right here of the Pocket Constitution, it says, the Constitution of the United States, its only keepers, the people. George Washington. Its only keepers, the people. Not the Supreme Court, not the president, not the federal government, not even the state government, but the people. At the end of the day, the people need to rise up and start asserting their authority. Because our authority is just. It is. The federal government has no true authority. Where does their authority derive from? I can tell you it doesn't come from this. Not at all. Nowhere in the Constitution does it give them the authority to do what they have done. Not a single page of this Constitution gives them the right to mandate medical treatment for the masses. Not one page. They have no real authority. And the sooner we start treating it like that, the sooner we start realizing that, the sooner we start telling them to shove off when they're doing something blatantly unconstitutional, the sooner we'll get this country back on track. Because the reality is, if we let these mandates go through, if we allow the federal government this much leadway into our lives, this right here means nothing. Means absolutely nothing. There's no point in having a constitution. Like I said, I think the best way around this is local elections. But I understand there's a lot of people out there who think we need to be more assertive. And I'll just keep it at that, assertive. I disagree. But I do understand. I get why people, again, I'm on, this is YouTube, this is on a couple different things, so I can't, you get what I'm saying when I say there's some people out there who want to be assertive. I don't think we're there yet still. I think DeSantis and Greg Abbott, they've shown that if we actually elect the right people into local offices, which is much easier than federal offices, we can enact real change in this country. But what do you think? Of course, leave a comment below. As well as, of course, if you enjoyed this video, hey, leave a thumbs up. Really do appreciate it. And hey, share the video out a bit. And sharing is caring, right? Share the video out a bit, as well as, of course, subscribe to a channel if you're not already. This stuff in particular gets me a little heated, so I guess it's a bit more of a rant, more so than going over any type of story. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll be talking again real soon.